your favorite podcast platform is, whether it be Spotify or Apple or Google or Amazon or whatever. You can, of course, get the Colombo and Katie podcast and all the other shows, podcasts here, News Talk STL. And now also, and this is, we talk about the cameras. We have the cameras on in here. You can watch us every single day on Rumble and on Facebook. But now you can once again watch us live every day on YouTube. You just have to go to the Colombo and Katie YouTube channel, not the News Talk STL YouTube channel. And same thing with Mike and Vic and Tim and Chris. Just subscribe to everybody's YouTube channel and you'll be able to watch us that way. Again, in the morning, I love it because I turn it on the television as I'm getting the kids ready for school and getting myself ready for work and just have Mike on in the background there. It's perfect. I love it.
I do too.
So make sure you check that out as we now are back on YouTube for a while at least. It's funny to see we did that story yesterday about Hillary Clinton posting the picture of her dancing. It's now like the top story on a lot of the news.
That's because it's so ridiculous. It's so
this ridiculous picture of Hillary Clinton dancing.
Everybody needed a good laugh, and that is well worth a chuckle to me. So ridiculous.
She doesn't look as comfortable on the dance floor as the Finnish prime minister does.
She does it. That's because it's Hillary. It's like she's programmed. She is programmed, and the program was not meant for her to dance.
Man, there was some weird stuff. Do you remember that video? Boy, I didn't mean to start the show this way. Do you remember that video of Hillary Clinton, like, coughing up, like, green marbles?
Oh, what? No.
It is a bizarre video.
Is it a deep fake or is it she actually is coughing up marbles?
This happened, like, I think during the 2016 election, probably, like, she was at some rally and she's speaking and she's coughing, like she's going and she's talking, coughing. And then all of a sudden she picks up a glass of water and she like goes to like take a drink, but it's like a fake drink. And then she's like, as she's got it on her mouth, she goes like, two
marble,
two like green.
Ew.
They look like maybe it's just mucus.
Oh God. Oh,
but it looks like it is a perfectly round, like two perfectly round green glass balls.
Ugh, gross. Programmed.
Blink, blink.
Yeah, they got out of her system.
What is that?
Some of the wiring and everything were detached to the system, and she had to hack it up.
It's so weird.
It's probably a knob to something and inside her body.
Remember how sometimes she would walk differently, like she would walk like a real old woman, and then like one day later she'd be like
hip hopping around.
Yeah, like
this is what makes me sad when I think about Hillary Clinton. I know that sentence is like what, but what makes me sad is in 2016, whenever those debates were going on with Trump and Hillary, I was like just kind of getting into politics. So I watched them and I was like, oh, okay. But I didn't realize the value in those debates between Hillary and Trump and how much gold was in those debates and how absolutely insane they were.
No.
And sometimes I'll go back and rewatch them because not the whole thing, but just the highlights from some of those debates. I am talking about some of the best one-liners I have heard in politics to this day. And it was so entertaining and so valuable. And I'm like, why did I not see how crazy? But that was my introduction really to politics. I thought, really, Tony, it was all like that. And it has been since that moment.
It has been since that.
It has been since that moment. But before Hillary and Trump, because I was kind of ignorant to what was going on because I was in college, I did not appreciate what those debates were really like and how heavy both Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, but really Trump, how heavy they went in on each other.
Yeah. Oh.
And I can't imagine being someone like you.
We've never seen
watching something like that to be like, what? This is a gold mine. This is jackpot.
Yeah, we had never seen presidential debates like that.
It was so good.
Lifetime.
So good.
Just coming after you.
And I am so sad that I didn't realize what that was at that moment. And now I do. And I'm like, golly, that's entertaining.
Back up, you creep.
Back up, you
Do you remember
creep.
what I'm
That
talking
book, the audio book.
She did the audiobook talking about being a robot. Like
Golly.
listening to those excerpts of her reading her own audiobook.
There is nobody in this
He
world.
moved behind me, and I wanted to snap
Yeah.
my neck back and say, "Back up, you creep."
There is nobody, I think, politically. I do believe Kamala Harris is giving her a run for the money, but I think Hillary Clinton has a permanent spot to always be the number one most unrelatable politician that has ever existed.
Mhm.
And I know that sounds
Keeps
crazy.
hot sauce in her purse.
That's true.
That's
Yeah.
not relatable?
No, of course. I mean, you know what? Keeps hot sauce in her purse
She's
and
in
dances
no
around at
ways tired.
parties. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
dancing at
relatable.
parties. So weird, man. There were so many weird things going on with her.
Coughing up marbles.
Dude, I gotta show you the video.
I don't wanna see it. I do
It's
not wanna see that
wild.
video. Ugh.
What is it?
Probably mucus.
It doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like it.
Or just the machine went down a little bit
Right.
during the day.
It looks like parts.
Yuck.
Okay, well, there's that. We got a show for you today, too. Believe it or not. A little bit later on, about an hour from now, a little less than an hour from now, we'll have our buddy Brian Eggers in studio with us. Going to get a check-in with him about, we're getting close to, like I said, September's in 2 days. We'll be making some weather changes and talk about some tips and some just things you should have in your mind when it comes to your HVAC system, and we make that switch into the fall weather. But also, I want to talk to Brian about he's been such a great resource for us when it comes to talking about things like the supply chain and the labor force issue and all these things that affect small businesses. We go through it with our family's printing company, and just talk to him about the health of small businesses, as we get ready again to go into a new season. And I think we'll have a little bit of we'll have a little fun time. We'll have a little fun stuff, a little fun time that's in the 3 o'clock hour today. So all that with Brian a little less than an hour from now. Coming up in just a few minutes, we're going to talk to Mark Lauder. He is the Chief Communications Officer at the America First Policy Institute. He's also a former special assistant to President Donald Trump. So want to talk to him about all the things surrounding Trump, the latest coming out of the various rulings and the Mar-a-Lago raid issue. So keep it here for that. Also, just diving into some headlines here. Joe Biden is going prime time to spotlight the fight to protect democracy after taking jabs at at MAGA Republicans. The White House says the president will head to Philadelphia on Thursday this week for a primetime address where he will argue that America's democracy remains under attack and highlight who is fighting to protect the nation's freedoms. The speech in the crucial general election battleground state of Pennsylvania comes less than 10 weeks ahead of the November midterm elections. Less than 10 weeks to
That's
the November elections.
Crazy. I feel like we just got done with the primary.
Less than 10 weeks
is nuts.
to the midterm elections in November. That's nuts. When the Democrats hope to hold on to their rather thin majorities in the House and the Senate, the address also comes as Biden has raised his rhetoric in recent days, targeting what he argues are anti-democratic MAGA Republicans who have embraced semi-fascism.
So
whatever the hell that is. The president will speak at Philadelphia's Independence National Historical Park. He will speak about how the core values of this nation, our standing in the world, our democracy, are all at stake. A White House official confirmed that he will talk about the progress that we have made as a nation to protect our democracy, but how our rights and freedoms are still under attack. Who is attacking our freedoms more than the Democrats? Who is he talking about?
I saw a couple of clips on MSNBC and CNN. And even the commentators, even the pundits that are more specifically towards CNN, but I did see some from MSNBC. Even those commentator and pundits are like, he is doing such a disservice to himself and to the Democratic Party by saying things like semi-fascism when you're talking about Trump Republicans. You are basically painting with a broad brush a huge faction, if not the entire Republican Party, saying this is the president of the United States deeming you semi-fascists. That is not the way to lead a country, and I couldn't believe it. I could not believe that I was hearing that kind of talk, that kind of pushback and commentary about the president from people at CNN, but it's unavoidable. It's unavoidable. What can you really say besides that is an absolute ridiculous statement coming from the leader of the free world?
Right.
That you would categorize an entire party like that.
And this prime time address, which this president does not do very often.
No.
This prime time address to the nation on Thursday, according to the White House, this isn't just speculation or saying this is what, like just angry about what he said and he's going to be talking about. This is from the White House. They said that the reason he is speaking to the nation in primetime on Thursday is to make the point that America's democracy remains under attack. Who is attacking America's democracy? He's going to try to make the point that Republicans, ultra mega Republicans, this president, this White House Trump should be paying them for all of this campaigning. I mean, you want to talk about how to motivate and rev up a base of voters by calling them anti-fascists and say that they are people who believe that they're fighting for freedoms and for people's rights and the military and police, to keep telling all of these people that they're semi-fascist and they are attacking America's democracy. Trump couldn't have anybody else besides himself motivate his voters more than this.
And this is also the White House that says that the sole importance of terrorism is domestic terrorism led by white supremacists in the United States. That is our number one threat. And they've said they campaigned on that. And then the presidency has been about how white supremacy, specifically coming from the MAGA crowd, is the number one threat to the United States. There is when you go that far and you talk in that extreme measure, where are all of the people saying, where are all of the people that have been continuously calling out Republicans for their extreme measures and how they're politicking in an extreme way by showing AKs whenever they're having a political campaign commercial, or if they talk about Trump's rhetoric? Where are those same people looking at Joe Biden and saying, this is pretty extreme? This is pretty wild that you're calling a giant portion of the United States fascists. And white supremacists. White supremacists.
Yeah.
Where are but this is what Joe Biden knows. And
a group that has more minorities in it than ever before.
And keeps getting
growing
more. Yeah, keeps growing. My question is, where the only thing it seems like Joe can get right in any coherent manner when he's putting together and stringing along sentences are these extreme steps. Everything else that he says, whenever even simple things, off the cuff things, he cannot seem to calculate and get correct. But whenever it comes to saying something extreme, he can get that right because the people telling him to say it are like, this is a hot button issue. This is one of your points. You have to nail that right. And he does it, but he's not doing himself any favors. No. Not a single favor.
Not only dividing the nation, he's dividing his own party.
Yes.
When he does that.
Yes.
One more quick story here before we talk to Mark Lauder. Depending on when you were reading the news today, if you've been in and out, you may be under the impression that Joe Biden has officially indicated that he is indeed running again in 2024. He didn't not make that indication, despite a bunch of reports. There was a bunch of reporters earlier claiming that Biden was officially going to run for re-election. But hold your horses, everybody. That is not what happened. President Biden has filed documents updating his Biden for President Committee, according to the Federal Election Commission records. However, contrary to a flurry of tweets and reports from journalists earlier today, the newly filed documents are not an announcement of intentions to run for re-election. A source similar with the matter reported that the filing is a simple update due to a member of the committee taking a job within the government. Quote, "This is not a re-election filing," a Democrat official told Fox News. This just is updating the form to change the treasurer name because the former treasurer is taking a government job and stepping away from the committee. So, one of the people who kicked off all these reports was Voice of America chief national correspondent Steve Harmon, who then walked back his reports in a tweet that Biden had filed for re-election. He said, quote, "I misinterpreted the @FEC filing and have deleted the tweet. Apologies for the confusion." So all of this, so the Biden committee made this filing today, and everybody thought, oh, he's filing for the campaign, he's running again. No, they just had to change somebody's name. There's a new treasurer, and they had to update.
And that's what they had to do.
They had to update the paperwork. So if you saw headlines earlier today that Joe Biden had officially announced that he's running again in 2024, that is not what happened, because there was a hot minute there earlier where everybody thought he made this announcement.
That would have been a very bad thing to do at this moment in time, to not wait that out. Wow.
I like this tweet from Mark Meredith, who's with Fox News. After this all happened, he sent out a tweet. Well, that was a fun 15-minute news cycle.
That's how,
because everybody went bonkers. Everybody went crazy. Like, hey, he's running. They're all trying to be the first ones out. You know, like
sure.
Biden administration announces they're running again, and that is not what happened. So, if you heard that story, that is not what happened. They just have a new treasurer. No announcement's been made about. Official announcement from the president about running in 2024. We all still are left wondering about that. All right, we are going to talk to Mark Lauder, Chief Communications Officer at the America's First Policy Institution, former special assistant to President Donald Trump, about the Mar-a-Lago situation, about the President Biden's speech to the country on Thursday night that was announced today, and his reaction to the opposition of Joe Biden, Trump supporters being called semi-fascist. We'll get Mark Lauder's thoughts on all of that next. You're listening to Colombo and Katie on 101.9 and 94.1 News.
Constantly changing inventory, order something special, or have us repair or modify that firearm that you've been putting off. Try our firearms training simulator. See the demo video on our website. Come into Southern Armory, 9901 Watson Road, 1 mile east of 270 and 44 at southernarmory.com. That's southernarmory.com.
Where callers won't be canceled.
It's just so ridiculous and so offensive.
And we don't socially distance from differing opinions.
I couldn't disagree with you more. I haven't always agreed with you.
Free speech is alive and well in America right here.
This country is worth fighting for.
That's why we're canceling those season tickets. That's why we're canceling those subscriptions.
I'm just so sick and tired of it.
Disgust us.
It's insanity, man.
This is News Talk STL. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
It's Tuesday, and we'll talk at 4:25 with Dave Stoke from the Show Me Institute, and at 5:25 we'll have Congressman Burgess Owens.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 3:30 on News Talk STL.
the Chief Communications Officer at the America First Policy Institute and former Special Assistant to President Donald Trump. Mark Lauder is back with us. Mark, always appreciate your time. How's it going this afternoon?
It's going great. How are you guys?
We are well. A whole lot going on out there to talk about. So I can't remember where we were in this saga. I want to start with just the latest with the Trump Mar-a-Lago raid situation. We've now seen the redacted affidavit come out. We've seen some legal action taken by the Trump by the Trump team. We've seen this new judge that wants to appoint a special, I can't remember what they call it, a special master or something like that. Yeah, special master to take a look at things. But suddenly the Justice Department, I made this point yesterday in the show, it's amazing how fast the government can move when it wants to. Like normally you would think like something like this, an unprecedented raid on a president's house where they take all these documents it'll take months to go through all this stuff and see what we have and understand this. And this judge comes out and like, hey, I want to appoint a special master, take a look at this. And the DOJ is like, no, we're already done. We already looked at it all. We got it. Here's we'll let you know what we found in a couple of days. Like, well, when you're motivated, you can move awfully quick there. So just the entire thing's a mess. The entire thing's a joke. What's your latest analysis and thoughts on this whole process?
Well, I think, especially as this latest saga unfolds, it's not just the speed at which they did it. I believe it's actually the underlying reason why they did it. Because before a judge says, no, you're not to go through this, because there could be, and there has been reporting that there was attorney-client privileged information of the former president that was confiscated. They have already reviewed it before a judge could tell them you are under orders not to review it, and I will have a neutral third party go through and say, here's what the police can see, and here's what the police can't, because that's what the FBI is. Let's not make that, let's be very clear.
Sure.
And there are things where, you are protected by your attorney-client privilege. There is obviously executive privilege. There's other things that could be involved. But the FBI did this so quickly because they wanted to see it all before a judge could say, no. Let's only let you see what you're allowed to see. They've now seen it all, and they get to be the arbiters and decision makers of, what does the public get to see? But we actually got to see all that information, take it all in, file it, and use it, whether we were allowed to see it or not.
And how about this? So, before we move on, so what do you anticipate the next steps to be? And as we keep asking ourselves, what do they think are they going to accomplish from this? What are we gonna how long until this whole thing plays out, and how long till it just fizzles out to being a big nothing burger like every other investigation or hearing or charge brought against Trump has been?
Yeah, I would assume it'll fizzle out around November 9th.
Right.
and until then, it will be trial by leak in the court of public opinion.
Right.
I mean, that's what they do. They tell you that the media, the general public, we don't have a right to know all these information except for the strategically placed leaks from the New York Times and the Washington Post and MSNBC and CNN, and they get the stuff, the cherry picked stuff. It's almost like the January 6th committee, but it's being run by, the FBI, because you only get to see the information they want you to see, and you don't get any defense. You don't get any pushback. There's no cross-examination. There's no, here are 5 other documents that say, that that's not true. It's just a one-sided affair being played out, masterfully by by politically motivated people at the highest levels of the FBI.
Yeah. Speaking of controlling the message and controlling the media and controlling the narrative and the stories before an election, how about this bombshell dropped by Mark Zuckerberg to Joe Rogan, admitting that ahead of the 2020 election, the FBI told Facebook to watch out for possible Russia propaganda, advising them to be vigilant because something was about to come out. As a result, Zuckerberg admitted that Facebook limited the visibility of articles about Hunter Biden's laptop. because the FBI told him to. That's incredible. I mean, it's not surprising. We've all figured out what exactly was done by the powers that be leading into the investigation or leading into the election, especially when it comes to the Biden laptop situation. But to now just hear the people involved coming out and just plainly admitting it is just is shocking, and hopefully getting through to the American voter about how disingenuous the media was heading into that election.
Well, it doesn't surprise me. Obviously, I was on that campaign. I was the director of strategic communications for the re-election campaign, so I spent a lot of time talking about that, to no avail. And God help you if you actually put something online about it, because you'd be censored, you'd have your account suspended, or or you would be throttled back by the algorithm. But this just shows you, I think twofold. Number one, that big tech is colluding with the left to basically manipulate the outcomes of elections. And they did it in 2020. Obviously, they did it in 2016. They are doing it again, right now as we speak, through what they're doing, obviously, with the Mar-a-Lago raid and such. But you've got the federal government. You have the Department of Justice now colluding with big tech to censor, to throttle. That's not their job. It's the American people's job. It's the American people's job to read the report, believe it, don't believe it, ask tough questions about it. That's where true reporters are supposed to be. I started my career in radio and television as a journalist. And your job as a journalist is to ask those tough questions, not just make the whole thing go away. And yet nobody did. And the mainstream media really needs to be asking themselves, and they're not, but they really need to be asking themselves about their role in this, that they fell for this, and that they were a party to manipulating the outcome of an election. And if you're truly a journalist and not just a liberal hack, then the only answer could be is that you sacrificed your journalistic integrity to get an election outcome you preferred.
Mark, speaking of Joe Rogan, yesterday I read a story that over yesterday or over the weekend, he was speaking with Aaron Rodgers on the Joe Rogan Experience. And he was telling Aaron Rodgers what people need to do is vote Republican if they don't want the insanity of what happened with COVID, such as the lockdowns, masking in schools, pushing vaccines. Vote Republican if you don't want to see something like that happen again, and to kind of get this world back to some kind of law and order. And I thought that was so interesting because Joe Rogan has never been a Republican. He said now that if Ron DeSantis were to run, he would vote for Ron DeSantis, but he is a notorious liberal. And I'm wondering, from your perspective, do you see a lot of moderate Democrats feeling the same way as Joe Rogan? And how important is it, or how impactful is it to see people like Joe Rogan, like Bill Maher in the media who are traditional liberals say, our party is not heading in the right direction, and if you do want to make some change, you might want to vote red this time around?
No, I think it's hugely important. And I think it's also the continuation of something that really started under Donald Trump. I remember being on the campaign in 20, but also in 16. We would go into like union country, blue collar auto workers in Michigan, in Missouri, in Pennsylvania, and places where we would normally not be, because it's not traditionally Republican areas. And you saw all of the faces out there, and they were nodding in agreement with what we were saying. Because for the first time in a while, I think, and I've said this many times, I think the 2016 election was not just about Donald Trump as the man. I think it was so many people of both political parties saying, I'm tired of being lied to for the last 30, 40 years by politicians of both parties. Whether it was Bill Clinton or Barack Obama, George W., whomever, saying, I'm going to fix NAFTA, but never doing it. I'm going to get tough with China so they stop stealing our jobs, but never actually doing it. I'm going to stop getting us into endless wars, but we're actually not going to do that. And for both sides did it. And Donald Trump became the embodiment of, you know what, enough with these politicians. I'm going to tell you what I'm actually going to do. Then I'm going to get in there and do it. And Now I see that we're starting to see that even with some of moving up, in the ranks in the liberal hierarchy with folks like Joe Rogan, Bill Maher, and others who are saying, where the Democrat Party is going is liberal, is progressive, socialist openly, that they are becoming. They're not good with that. And so we might not always agree on every single policy, but most of the policies we do. And we believe in the Constitution. We believe in just the fundamental individual rights that we were born with. And let's get back to that. I don't need the government taking care of me. I can take care of myself.
Kind of tying these last 2 points together, not just members of the media like Bill Maher or Joe Rogan, but somebody like Mark Zuckerberg, who is a huge, a CEO of one of the biggest tech companies in the world. Why go on Joe Rogan's show and say that you were told to do this by the FBI and then you did it and you throttled back information, did all the things that you mentioned a few minutes ago, Mark, to the people that would try to report on the Hunter Biden laptop story? Why admit it now? Is it an admission, you think, of like backing the wrong team and realizing that what they did was wrong? And back then they thought they were fighting the good fight against the big evil orange man. But now looking back, they were instead being pawns of the people that were actually the ones that were being shady and up to no good. Why admit it now if not that you're having a change of heart?
Yeah, I think in some ways, I think there's probably some disgust with the direction that their companies or their brand was going. And so this was more of a warning shot going, we're not doing this again. It also wouldn't surprise me. I mean, let's remember that most of these uber rich billionaires, and I mean multi-billionaires, who basically made their billions through the capitalist society, once they become billionaires, they become liberals because they feel guilty. So they give all their money away. They get into these other causes. Bill Gates is one of them. Bezos. You rode capitalism and the Chamber of Commerce to becoming one of the richest people in the world. Now you feel guilty about it, so you're a liberal, so you can give it all away. So in this case, like, well, I feel guilty for what I did, so I'm just going to confess to it and then admit it. So, excuse me. There's probably a lot of different reasons for it, but I think we have to use the opportunity. And I think we have to use the opportunity to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
It's not Facebook or Twitter's responsibility to censor what the American people see. It's our jobs.
It's our jobs to do our own research, make our own decisions with all the information available to us. Got a couple minutes left here with Mark Lauder from the America First Policy Institute. Made the announcement in the first segment of the show today that Joe Biden and the White House have announced that they are going to give a primetime address, something that is very rare for this president. He's going to go primetime on Thursday. And according to the White House, the reports that I'm seeing, the point of this speech, usually, there's something big happening. There's some big policy announcement, or there's some big something has happened in the world and they're addressing some incident or some issue that's happened. But from what I see, he's going on television on Thursday night in prime time to double down on this whole attack on MAGA Republicans, in quote, and this semi-fascist claim, label that he's given them. The White House says that the primetime address on Thursday, the president will argue that America's democracy remains under attack and highlight who's fighting to protect the nation's freedoms. I mean, really? We're going to go on television to double down on a name-calling attack on the other side? I mean, we've seen a lot of weird stuff and a lot of unprecedented steps taken by this White House and this administration, but this just seems absolutely, I don't know if it's desperate or just strange, but the whole thing, this semi-fascist claim, which is ridiculous and insulting and disgusting. And now we're going to go on national television in prime time to defend our the statement and double down on it. What do you make of all that?
Well, I mean, this is nothing different. I mean, this is what we've always known, whether we were called deplorables or, or when Barack Obama was calling names, that we were clinging to our guns and our Bibles. I mean, this is truly what the left thinks of the rest of America. But let me be one thing clear, and maybe we'll get the clip to the White House. Mr. President, I've got a word for you. You are worried about our democracy? Then talk about the 14 Democrats who objected to the 2000 election, or the 32 Democrats who objected to the 2004 election, or the 6 Democrats that objected to the 2016 election that Hillary said was stolen.
Mm-hmm.
Or how about the left, who now calls the Supreme Court illegitimate because you didn't get a ruling that you wanted? We fought for 50 years when we got a ruling we didn't like. We didn't call them illegitimate. We went out and elected candidates, nominated justices and judges, and eventually got that overturned. You are the threat to democracy. That is what is actually going on. And until we stand up and say those things, and that's not a threat, that's just a fact.
Sure.
Until we start to stand up and say, no, this is if you want to talk about election deniers, then talk about them on both sides, sir.
Yes. Amen.
If you want to talk about the threats to legitimacy, then fine. We're also going to talk about the threat to Justice Kavanaugh, the assassination attempt, or the leftist who shot and nearly killed Steve Scalise. It's a pox on both parties, and until we actually stand up and defend that, then we're going to be playing defense on it.
It always blows my mind when people try to claim that Donald Trump and certain people on the right are the first people that ever questioned the results of an election fresh on the heels. Forget about how many times it's happened, in our history, but just fresh on the heels of 4 years of Hillary Clinton saying that the 2016 election was stolen from her, that it was an illegitimate election, and Stacey Abrams saying that the election, the gubernatorial election in Georgia that she lost was illegitimate. This is something that the Democrats have been famous for in recent years. So that always blows my mind. I couldn't agree with you more. Mark, unfortunately, we're just about out of time. Before we let you go, an update on what you guys are working on at the America's First Policy Institute, and for people who are not familiar with the organization, how they can learn more about you and all the things you guys are working on.
Yeah, go to americafirstpolicy.com. We've got 22 policy centers led by former senior White House officials or cabinet level officials from the Trump White House. We're actually putting the policy work into practice. So we're ready to go in 2023 and in 2025, when we finally get America First leadership back in control in Washington. It's so great to work alongside all these former colleagues from the White House, from the administration, and we're getting ready. We're actually doing town halls all across the country. I'll be in Cincinnati next week doing a town hall. We were in Iowa. We were in New Mexico. So we're going to be out there talking about the policies because we know they worked. Regardless of what you thought of the president or his tweets or his tone, whatever, the one thing nobody can argue is that the policies worked.
Yeah.
So let's get it ready for the next generation, whoever that's going to be.
AmericaFirstPolicy.com. Mark Lauder, always appreciate your time and look forward to having you back on again very soon.
Talk to you guys soon.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Thanks so much. All right. The National Border Patrol Council president put out a statement today saying that Karine Jean-Pierre is lying about what is happening at the border. That is
not surprised.
That is a stiff accusation. We'll get into that story in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Colombo and Katie on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Here, News Talk STL.
All Solutions Pest Control has been a awesome service for us at our new house. We have been thrilled with the results I am a big believer in having a pest control service at your home, mostly because I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to get bugs. I don't want to get spiders. I don't want to get ants or mice or anything else. So I want to have a pest control company working for me to keep that stuff away. And All Solutions Pest Control is the best company out there because they they insist on being the best. They don't cut corners. They use the best products and services available instead of trying to cut corners and increase their profits by a little bit. They want to make sure that they are offering their customers the best service and getting the best results possible, and we have seen that firsthand. Like I said, I've had pest control companies, worked with many over the years, and at the new house we got a chance to meet Derek and Blake and the guys at All Solutions Pest Control, and we're just blown away by the level of customer service. One thing that I love about them is they treat existing customers as well as they do new customers. A lot of companies, including All Solutions, have discounts and things that are available to new customers, but they also help out existing customers the entire time you're with them. They don't just sort of fade away and get forgotten about. They treat their existing customers as well as new customers, and we have been blown away, especially when it comes to the mosquito treatment. That for us has been the absolute highlight of the relationship with All Solutions Pest Control. So if you have any of those things, termites, mosquitoes, mice, ants, spiders, or you just want to keep it all away from your house, All Solutions Pest Control is the place to call. Learn more at allsolutionspestcontrol.com.
To have a roof over your head, a nice roof over your head, is very important.
That's Rick talking about his experience with Rhino Shield ceramic coating.
We got Rhino Shield 18 years ago, and they're very cooperative on getting us the right paint. They were in and out and done in no time. Once it was finished, looked great. We were very happy with it.
The main reason Rick called Rhino Shield is because it's backed by a 25-year transferable warranty.
We've watched a lot of people get their house painted 3 or 4 times, and we haven't had to do any of it. I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to have to paint it every 5-7 years.
Take a tip from Rick and put down the paintbrush and call Rhino Shield for your free evaluation. 877-25-RHINO. 877-25-RHINO. Or visit 877-25rhino.com.
We got Rhino Shield 18 years ago. Financially makes sense, especially if it's going to last like this did. Still looks great.
Call now. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com.
Don't paint, don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
What does your smile say about you? Are you happy, confident, friendly? Getting and keeping that smile takes work. Proper brushing and flossing daily, and drinking fluoridated water. Fluoridated water has been in use for 75 years and is considered the most safe, equitable, and cost-effective way to prevent tooth decay. A healthy smile means a healthy person and a healthy community. For more information, visit health.mo.gov. A message from the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services.
Is the National Border Patrol Council president, and today he said that Karine Jean-Pierre is lying about the border and knows the media won't cover what's really happening. Brandon Judd called out White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre today after she raised eyebrows by claiming migrants are not, quote, just walking in across the southern border. I watch these people walk across the border every single day, said Brandon Judd. We see it. It's disgusting what we are seeing. And she knows exactly what's happening, but she's deflecting. She's lying. She knows the mainstream media isn't going to cover the issue. During a press conference briefing, Fox News' Peter Doocy asked Jean-Pierre about the White House's policy on unvaccinated travelers coming into the United States. He used it as an example Siberian tennis star Novak Djokovic.
I think
Djokovic,
yeah,
Djokovic, who has been barred from participating in the U.S. Open due to his refusal to take the COVID-19 vaccine. But so how is it two different things? Somebody unvaccinated comes over on a plane. You say that's not okay. Somebody walks into Texas or Arizona unvaccinated, and they're allowed in. Why? Ducey asked. But it's not like somebody walks over and that's not what's happening. That's the quote. Because I read it that way because that's how it went down.
Yes, that's what it.
She sort of stammered her way through it.
And she was looking at the binder.
And Peter Ducey said, that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
And now Brandon Judd, the National Border Patrol Council president, has said the same. That is exactly what is happening. People are simply walking across the border. So now
it's undeniable.
Yeah.
It's undeniable that is what is happening. We have footage of that specific thing happening.
Yes, and it's bold. There's footage, there's video of it. There's witnesses to it. So many witnesses to it in the border, down there at the border, in the ranks of Border Patrol. And yet this White House thinks that they can just simply say it's not happening and expect people to believe it.
And you know what's stunning to me is that I did watch this video. She was looking at that freaking binder the entire time. The only time she looked up from the binder was to tell him, no, that's not what's happening. And then when he pushed back and was like, it is, she went back to looking at the binder, trying to frantically find out where I can go next, how I can process this. She is glued to that thing. I don't know if it's probably a crutch.
Here's the quote. But it's not like somebody walks over and that's not happening.
Yes. And then she said that, and I don't think she explained after Peter Ducey pushed back, as you just read.
No.
I don't think she explained
That's
what
where
she
it ended.
meant.
That's where it ended.
By that comment.
That's where it ended. That's where the exchange ended.
And that's crazy to me. It's like, okay, well, if you think as the White House, as the press secretary, that isn't what is happening, then tell us what is. And if you can't explain that, then Peter Ducey is right.
Do I have one or two?
One.
Okay, very good. Very quickly. Kimberly Gardner has been ordered to pay a $750 fine after admitting wrongdoing in ethics investigation. Today, the St. Louis City Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner was ordered to pay a fine for her handling of the criminal case against former Governor Eric Greitens. She was accused in a 73-page report of failing to disclose evidence to Greitens' lawyers, misrepresenting evidence, and other ethical violations. Gardner hired William Tisby as a private investigator for the case. He has since pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor for tampering with evidence in the case. Both sides accepted to a reprimand, which is a formal acknowledgement that will go on Gardner's license forever. According to documents, Chief Justice Paul Wilson of the Missouri Supreme Court ordered Gardner to pay a $750 fine, which is less than a slap on the wrist. And no matter what you think of Eric Greitens, you can not support Eric Greitens all day long. And I completely understand why, but that doesn't mean that Kimberly Gardner and what was done by her wasn't illegal and unethical is right. There could be two bad guys in the same story, and Kimberly Gardner, as usual, just gets away with it. Don't go anywhere. Brian Eggers, our friend from Eggers HVAC, joins us next.
Have you been floored? Not until you've gone to Michael's Flooring Outlet. They've been a locally owned and operated family business for more than 28 years. You want variety? Michael's has carpet, hardwood, laminate, ceramic tile, luxury vinyl, natural stone, and many other options. Save money and get quality at Michael's. Plus, your installation will be done right the first time when you hire the experts at Michael's. You can shop in store at one of their 3 convenient locations or shop from home. Check out everything that Michael's has to offer at igotfloored.com.
Do you have a property that is more hassle than it's worth? Hi, this is David with House Sold Easy, and I buy houses cash. If you own a property and you want to sell it fast at a fair price, call me at 314-293-3000. Do you own an ugly property, a behind-on mortgage payment property, a lazy tenant that won't pay rent property, a too much junk and clutter property, or even a, hey, I'm curious about a fair cash offer property? Well, don't worry. I buy them all, and I want to make you a fair cash offer. Call me at 314-293-3000.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Between 2 and 4 million.
That's a lot of people.
Working age Americans are not currently working due to long COVID. Put that story, though, up against the other story that we've been seeing about this quiet quitting phenomenon.
I saw that and I was like, man, is that new phenomenon? I've been doing that for decades.
Gradually
quietly quitting. It's like, yeah.
I'm not going to give it 100. I'm going to give it 80.
Oh, what's the big deal?
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 3:30 on News Talk STL. Welcome home to St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
These Democrats and liberals will stop at nothing.
News, analysis, and opinion.
What's going on?
The days of sending an entire classroom home because one person tests positive, those days are over.
How did the FBI justify raiding Mar-a-Lago?
In an affidavit like this unsealed, we're going to see a lot more redactions than text.
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Welcome home.
New Creation Dental Care and Dr. Matt Boscia is where the Colombo family goes. And if you're looking for a new dentist for you and your family, I cannot recommend them enough. You've heard me talk about all the great services, all the different services, the variety of services they offer there at New Creation Dental Care, making it basically a one-stop shopping spot for all of your dental needs, whether it be braces with the My Forever Smile braces system, or like I got my sleep apnea treated there, and so many other things. It's wonderful. But also this time of year, especially with kids going back to school, it's good to remember the convenience aspect of New Creation. They offer early morning and evening appointments. They'll work with you in so many different ways to make sure that getting to the dentist is as easy and convenient for you as possible. Learn more about all those great services on the website, newcreationdentalcare.com.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Belfast, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm John Scott. The federal government is partnering with Mississippi officials in response to the state's multiple water problems. White House correspondent Greg Clugston reports.
Jackson, Mississippi has no reliably clean drinking water after pumps at the city's main water treatment plant failed. Recent flooding has also contributed to water problems. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre.
We will continue to partner closely with the state and local officials to support impacted communities in Mississippi.
The governor has declared a state of emergency, and agencies are distributing bottled water for 180,000 people. Greg Clugston, the White House.
Also at townhall.com, correspondent Rita Foley reports on the number of jobs available in July.
Job openings had reached a record level of almost 12 million in March. Before the pandemic, they'd never topped 8 million. The latest figures suggest that demand for workers remains hot. There were 11.2 million open jobs available on the last day of July, nearly 2 jobs on average for every unemployed person.
Following 3 straight months of declines, U.S. consumer confidence rebounding in August as inflation moderated and gas prices fell. The Conference Board says that its consumer confidence index rose in August to 103.2 from 95.3 in July. Analysts surveyed by data provider FactSet had expected consumer confidence to rise slightly as gasoline prices have fallen in recent weeks. President Biden in Pennsylvania today, the president speaking in Wilkes-Barre on his commitment to law enforcement and his Safer America plan. A lower close on Wall Street, the Dow off 286 points, the NASDAQ was down 134. More at townhall.com.
Relief Factor, pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. Relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Be the next success story.
My heart was racing just making spaghetti. I could have waited to tell my doctor, but I didn't wait.
I was short of breath just reading a book. I could have delayed telling my doctor, but I didn't wait.
They told their doctors and found out they have atrial fibrillation, a condition which makes it about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. If you have one or more of these symptoms, irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness, this is no time to wait. Contact your doctor.
Brought to you by Bristol Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
The U.S. and Israel prepare military operations to counter the Islamic Republic. The latest from the Media Line's Felice Friedson.
A Middle Eastern alliance in which the United States and Israel are playing leading roles was characterized as being more of an information-sharing organization than a military force by Alexis Grinkin, a senior official in the U.S. Army's Central Command. Nevertheless, plans are being drawn up for carrying out robust military operations against the Islamic Republic. The new alliance will be expected to carry out missions against Iranian regular and special forces. American forces have been active in the skies above Syria and Iraq, working with the Israelis to destroy the two states' capabilities. Much of the American strength in the region is funneled through the U.S. drones. I'm Felice Friedson, Town Hall News, Jerusalem.
News and analysis at themedialine.org and townhall.com. That Australian man has been found guilty of murdering his wife, who disappeared more than 40 years ago. The BBC's Phil Mercer with this report from Sydney.
Chris Dawson has been convicted of one of Australia's most high-profile murders. His lawyers had tried to get the case against him thrown out, arguing his right to a fair trial had been compromised by a popular podcast. The Teacher's Pet was downloaded millions of times around the world and prompted Australian police to renew its investigation into Lynette Dawson's death. Prosecutors claimed she was murdered in 1982 by her husband. The defense said the former teacher had no reason to kill his wife. But a judge said the wholly circumstantial case against Mr. Dawson was compelling and persuasive.
More on these stories at townhall.com. I'm John Scott.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your first alert forecast. It's going to be a nice day on Wednesday. Nice morning, especially. Low of 62 degrees, some outlying areas in the 50s. Might see some river fog, but otherwise it's going to be mostly clear skies. A lot of sunshine and a high of 87, light winds, near normal high temperature, not too humid. Thursday, mostly sunny and 89 as it starts to heat up just a little bit as we head towards the end of the week. That's the latest first alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Free speech is alive and well in America.
Sometimes it's hard to know what's real and what isn't.
Right here.
The country is heading in the wrong direction under this president.
We're suffering shortages. America's running out of everything.
News Talk STL. News, analysis, opinion.
Great first hour there. Lots going on in the news. Also, we talked to Mark Lotter, the former special assistant to President Donald Trump and the chief communications officer at the America First Policy Institute. Great conversation with him. We were supposed to talk to Christian Daytalk, the White House correspondent, today, but with everything happening at the White House, as sometimes happens with Christian, he got called away and had to be attending press briefing at the White House when he was supposed to be on with us. So we're going to catch up with him a little bit later in the week. If you missed any of that first hour, don't forget to just download our podcast so you never miss anything that happens here on the show. The Colombo and Katie podcast is available on all your favorite podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Google, whatever it is. Just subscribe to the podcast there so you never miss anything. And don't forget that we have just relaunched our YouTube channels. Actually, not the News Talk STL YouTube channel, because that has been banned forever because of us talking about the election and COVID, you know, all these crazy things, you know, all these conspiracy theories like COVID-19.
Yeah. Like
So
vaccines.
we now have YouTube channels for each individual show, much like the podcast. So if you want to make sure that you are keeping up with everything on the show, you can do it on the podcast, or you can just subscribe to the Colombo and Katie YouTube channel. You can watch us every single day. You can watch the live stream right there. We're also going to be doing some other fun videos, some other special content that will be only available on the YouTube channel. And again, that goes for every show here at News Talk STL. You can subscribe to the Vic Borselli YouTube channel, Mike Ferguson YouTube channel, Tim and Chris, all of us. Another great way to just keep up with everything that happens here at the station and the studio and with all of the shows. All right, joining us in studio now until we hand things over to Tim Jones and Chris Arps is our friend Brian Eggers from Eggers Heating and Air Conditioning. Always great to see you, buddy. How's it going?
It's going good.
Can you believe
tired?
Yeah, no kidding.
Glad summer's kind of winding down.
Can you believe it? Can you believe that August is over? We're 2 days away from September.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
It is crazy.
I've got a daughter who's engaged, and it's been 6 months already, or I guess it's getting close to 6 months. And when she first, when it happened initially, I thought, oh, we got all kinds of time,
right?
And it's
exactly.
like,
it just creeps on up.
Well, isn't this lovely?
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. Yeah, Labor Day is less than a week away. Like
Insane.
Can't believe it. Cannot believe it that all of that is happening. When you look back at this summer, was there any particular, was it a standout summer in any way when it comes to the
it was hotter than normal.
Yeah.
So obviously heat always drives business. People procrastinate until they're uncomfortable, and then it's like, never mind, I want you here 5 minutes from now. So when we have a warmer than usual summer, it always drives a lot of business, a lot of calls. So, it's particularly exhausting.
Whenever you're on, we like to, give people some tips and, advice on, like at a time of year like this, when the temperatures may be getting ready to change and we're going from season to season, like things to look out for or whatever. Would one of the biggest pieces of advice, like year round, and one of the biggest maybe mistakes or issues that you guys face is that people do procrastinate, that people wait too long to call when they're having a problem with either one, their air conditioner, their furnace. Like, they just kind of think maybe it's going to get like
it's going to have some kind of spontaneous healing.
Yeah, like it's just going to get better. Like they notice, like, man, this isn't working as well as it used to, but give it a few days.
Yeah, my favorite calls are people who call, like they wait all spring, they don't turn the air on, and then it's hot as blazes, and they're like, could you come out today? And also, this started last fall. I'm like,
yeah.
What?
Oh, really? Good stuff.
Right. So call early.
Yeah, calling early is always better. And people, if you get a check engine light on, you're not supposed to like mash the accelerator harder and drive it like you stole it. You're supposed to like deal with the check engine light,
Right.
And so people do that kind of behaviors with their heating and cooling system where it's like, yeah, it's not been cooling, so I just turned it down to like 60. Okay, perfect.
And how does that work again?
So that's kind of, not everybody does that, but there's a fair amount of clientele that think their thermostat is either an accelerator pedal, or if you turn it down super low, that just magically fixes everything, and it does not. It makes things worse in many cases.
So don't wait is certainly always a good one. Change your freaking filter.
Yeah.
It's always a good piece of advice.
Get a decent filter. Long range, I'm working on something, some sort of platform to get the messaging out. And I know it sounds really silly to talk about air filters, but if you're buying a fiberglass floss type filter that you can read a book through, like you can see typeface on a paper through, it's probably not a good filter. And then on the other hand, you've got some, air quotes, premium brands that are marketed,
for being super thick.
Well, just for being like super, grabby when it well, just, we catch all kinds of particulate, but a piece of lumber, like a sheet of plywood would catch 100% of the dust and it wouldn't let any air through. And
Right,
so
exactly.
a lot of times when you buy these high-end, heavily marketed filters,
Right.
you're getting something that catches a lot of everything, including the air.
Yeah,
And
know,
so
exactly.
then the equipment struggles to pull air through the filter because it's too tight. And, a lot of people don't really think in terms of percentage of energy wasted, but you can waste 30% of your electric consumption simply because your filter is either dirty or it's too dense and it's not letting enough air through. And your equipment just runs and runs and runs because you're not getting enough air through the evaporator coil, which is the indoor portion of the air conditioning system, to effectively remove the heat, which is what air conditioning is. It's removing heat from the air, and then it rejects that outside at the air conditioner, out at the condenser. So you're not getting air through your furnace, through your ductwork, past that evaporator coil efficiently, then the thermostat is still calling for cooling and it just runs and runs and runs. And a lot of folks don't realize that you buy these, high efficiency, well marketed,
Yeah.
pieces of filtration. And,
Yeah.
and the next thing you know, your electric bill's 20 to 30%
Right.
higher because
Right.
it sucks.
That was a big learning lesson for me and David. Whenever you came over and you came to our house and we were talking about everything and getting our new HVAC system set up,
Mhm.
was just like filtering and how important filtering is.
It
And you
is
did a
huge.
demonstration and I'm like, holy
Yeah.
cow. Well, first of all, I didn't know much about HVAC to begin with, but I remember how important you emphasized it was to have a good filter and what that means to keep the system running.
Mhm.
And it was very informative. David and I are
And
like,
to change it, how
set
important that
a
is.
timer to when we have
Right.
to change these filters.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell a story here on Tony.
Yeah, go.
I
Do it.
get a message, 3 weeks ago or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hey, that new system you put in this spring? It's not keeping my house at what? 65? So
64 at night.
yeah, so I'm sitting here thinking, I really don't think it's the equipment since it's brand new. And first
It wasn't.
it wasn't. First thing that came to mind is, well, since you run it constantly and abnormally low, you're literally running at the equivalent of 2 seasons for every season.
Gosh.
And so
Don't you look at me like
That's
that.
crazy.
Don't-
2
listen,
seasons.
I'm a grown man.
Yeah.
Oh my
If I want it
gosh.
cold in my house, I'll make it cold.
and
in my
you can
house.
have
Cold
it as
is
cold as you want,
69.
but you're going to have
Cold
to
is
do
70.
more filter changes and have the condenser clean more than
Which
once.
I have learned.
Yep. So you took care
I
of
actually
the
think I
maintenance.
told a little bit of that story.
Did you?
Yeah, when it happened. I don't know that I went into the details of it, but yeah, and I mean, I think it also just goes to, how great you guys are at Eggers is that you were able to, you guys were able to just say, here's what it was. It wasn't like this big expensive thing. It was like, here's what you need to do and here's how you fix it. And if that doesn't work, then we can explore more. But it wasn't like, here's all, we had to come out and do a service call. So here's one big giant charge for you, all at once. It was common sense steps and we fixed the problem about as easy and efficiently as we could. And yeah, and it was no big deal. And I learned a little bit more about
64.
taking
Yeah.
care of my
I know
stuff.
he's nutty about the whole ice cube, iceberg, icebox thing he's got going on, but
I'm freezing in here. I can't even imagine.
It's been great
but
since it's not been so hot.
something else that you had going on though is some light remodeling just because you were moving in and
Yeah.
making the house yours. And a lot of
Yes.
folks who do
It's a
their
great
own little
point.
home improvement never think. I mean, it is rare that you get somebody who is so thoughtful about their home remodel that they think about changing out the filters too. And you'd be surprised how many times we go out to somebody's house. And I mean, they may have needed service anyway because it had been, a season or something since we'd been out. But it's always on the heels of, we just sanded a bunch of drywall, dust into the air,
Yeah.
and now the filter is super clogged up.
Yeah.
And people don't contemplate the fact that
You do a little bit of work in your bathroom or something, and
Right.
you don't think about it being like anything major, but you did.
Mhm.
You were changing out things in the drywall, and there's dust going
or
everywhere,
you're
and you're
cutting hardwood
you're
floor
cutting-
or
exactly,
whatever, and all of a sudden all
exactly.
this fine dust is in the air.
Yeah.
It gets sucked into the ductwork. And that
Or for
filter is
me,
not
when
that
we got
big.
Molly, but we had our dog we had our last dog, which was a little beagle Jack Russell mix that was a tiny little dog that didn't shed very much, and it wasn't a big deal. And I was changing the filter every quarter ish or something like that. And I remember when we got the new dog, and I remember talking to you, and you were like, "No, you're gonna have to do it fast," because Molly, our chocolate lab, sheds like mad.
Like she's a hair factory.
Yeah, and it's a totally different story. It's like
Right.
it's like you can't, what was the right schedule for you before is no longer the right schedule for you. And so people, there's all these different variables to take into account on when, how often you should change your filter. There's a lot of factors that go into that.
Yep. And something else I've noticed about human behavior is like somebody will have an old HVAC system, and they're doing their thing and they're running it the way they did. And I'll circle around and, maybe a year later and talk to them about bills. And I frequently hear, well, we did save quite a bit of money, but it wasn't as much as I thought it was. Now there's two things going on there. A lot of the times it's they're not looking at usage, they're looking at dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to remember that utility prices continue to go up, it seems like annually. So that's one thing to consider is your usage up or is just the dollars up?
Right.
Because if it's just the dollars, it's probably because the price of utilities have gone up.
Right.
But the other thing that I've noticed, and this is kind of interesting to me, is you get people who will run their system, they will buy a premium high efficiency system, and all of a sudden they run the pants off of it. Like, hey, we got high efficiency now, so we're going to turn it down 4 degrees. Yeehaw, which is fine.
Right.
But guess what?
Yeah. It's not an apples to apples comparison to what you had before. Right.
So, the EPA in their findings say that for every degree that you set your thermostat down, it's going to run you 3 to 4%. And so if you're 3 or 4 degrees cooler than you were prior to changing out the equipment, well, you're using, potentially 12%, maybe even more energy because you've decided to turn your house into a mini refrigerator. So, which is fine. I mean, to each their own. You live however you want to live.
I only do it at night.
You only do it at night. You only do it for the 12 hours you're at
only
home.
do it for the 12 hours
Right.
while I'm sleeping.
Right.
No, but I do it because I can. Damn it.
And you should.
Yeah.
Because nobody or the government should be telling you
That's right.
what the temperature is inside your own home.
True that.
And it keeps you in business because I always get to keep calling because I'm running that thing into the ground. No, we love it. It's oh my God. The new system that we had put in a couple years ago at our old house before we sold it, and the new system that we had put in our new house, it has honestly, I mean, it was a top priority anyway, but it just when your HVAC system is not working properly, it affects every minute of your life at home with your family. So
Yeah.
it's something that you just need to stay on top of. Got a couple minutes left. I wanted to touch base on this. We got Brian Eggers in the studio from Eggers Heating and Air Conditioning. I've talked about this student loan payback plan. I mean, we've obviously dissected and analyzed and talked about that. And one of the things that I've been mentioning all week about it is that there are so many. You could have one question or one piece of this thing and spend 2 hours talking about each individual layer. There's so many different questions and so many different issues with it. And one thing that kind of made me think of you is because we've talked so much about, and one of the things that I have talked about being a problem with this is that if you want to address the student loan problem in America, which the president says he's addressing by this payout, how about not allowing colleges to charge so much and gouge people and families so much? How about we address that to a certain extent?
Or how about giving some guidance to where you're not giving young people this, because a lot of studies say that your mind doesn't stop developing till you're about 25.
Yeah.
And so when you're rolling into college, 18 or 19 years old, you're not thinking maybe this degree I'm getting that's going to cost $80,000 and pay me back $43,000 is not fiscally sound.
And so the whole thing to me was also another great reminder and a great opportunity to remind people about other options like tech schools, like trade schools.
Amen.
Because not only are those great, well-paying jobs that will be there forever. Right now, I don't know, you've been doing this for decades. Has there ever been a bigger need
Not hardly
for labor in those areas? So like they're already great jobs that pay well and keep you employed for the rest of your life. But right now you can cash out, you can take advantage of the desperation in the trades.
Yeah. And it's not going away. It's not, it's not like, hey, we're going to be hurting for the next couple of years and then it's all going to be good. I mean, we're losing about 16 people every month that are licensed to do work just in St. Louis County. 16 people a month. And this trend has been going on for over 6 years.
Oh my gosh.
More than that are retired. But if you look at numbers out and numbers in, it falls somewhere roughly around 16 people a month. And so you start taking 16 times 12, which is the number of people annually, and then you start taking that number times 6 or more, it starts to add up in a bad way.
Yeah.
And so, our lives are becoming even more refrigerated than they were. People want air conditioning. Now they want their wine chiller. You go into a Quick Trip, how many pieces of refrigeration or equipment are inside of a QT now? Now we've got frozen soda and all the other stuff that's available. So the refrigeration and heating and air conditioning trades not going away.
Not going anywhere.
Right now we're sitting somewhere at 150,000 jobs nationwide that are open, and that number in the next couple of years is supposed to jump to 250,000. And this is a trade where you can go to school for 2 years. You can get an associate's degree. It's going to cost you roughly 20 grand and 5 years out in the field. And if you are doing all the things that you should be doing, you're going to make somewhere around $100,000 a year after 5 years of experience with benefits and pay and, all the goods that go along with it.
And be making that 6-figure salary for the rest of your life.
Right. So it makes a lot more sense to spend $20,000 on a education that's going to pay you $100,000 in 5 years instead of spending $100,000 on an education that's going to pay you $40,000 and then maybe 43 the next year and 46 the next year. You know what I mean?
Oh my God. If you're somebody who's in high school right now or in college right now, or you have kids that are that age,
or people that just enjoy critical thinking, that working with their hands, so many young people
making a difference.
Right,
like
so many people have been lulled into this. Just work in whatever field you can work in and have your little hug mug of coffee or hot cocoa, and you don't have to get dirty or work out outside of the comfort of an office. It's like cool, but a lot of those jobs anybody can do. And, and I tell people that come to work for me, and I've told my son, do you know why? Because my son just graduated from tech school in May, and I said, do you know why we get paid what we do? Like, do you have any idea, other than supply and demand, do you have any idea why this trade pays as well as it does? And of course I have a specific answer in mind, and he doesn't know what it is. So he's like, no, what's up? And I said, because it sucks. It sucks to be hot. It sucks to be sweaty.
Yeah.
It sucks to be grimy.
Yeah.
But this is what pays well. If this job was
and you
easy,
also have to have a very specific skill. Like you said, not everybody can do it. And it's not something that you can just pick up.
Right.
You've got to get the right training. You've got to get the proper training, and you've got to be able to apply that training. And that's why and you can learn it, and and there's no better time to do that. And so the future can be extremely bright and
rewarding, because people like doing this. They like helping people.
Such a great point. And it's something that people still just don't think about. And the opportunity is there for a very well-paying career and skills that you can count on for the rest of your life, paying dividends. So, and all this talk about college and the price of college and everything has been in the news so much. It was one of the many times that I think about Brian Eggers. I think about you all the time, buddy. I think about you all the time. So, that's unfortunately we're out of time, but that is Brian Eggers from Eggers Heating and Air Conditioning. Call Eggers, AGERS, callaggers.com to learn more about Eggers. Get them out to your house if you are having any issues with your HVAC system or you're ready to put in a new system. Eggers HVAC is the place to call. Brian, thanks as always for everything you do for us here.
Glad to do it. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Time to hand things over to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. Paul Kurtman playing the role of Tim Jones this afternoon. Thank you so much for listening to us here at 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
We need change in our country right now.
Live and local.
They clubbed us over the head for 2 years.